Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Good morning. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
You're not just Reverend A.R. Bernard. You're Chief Reverend A.R. Bernard, or Co-Chief. You now have been appointed as Co-Chief Chaplain of NYPD. And Cardinal Dolan is the other Co-Chief Chaplain, which is historic.
Yeah. Well, from one chief to another chief, because you are Chief Chaplain of the FDNY. So we've all been elevated, I guess.
Well, it just shows you that one chief chaplain at FDNY is doing the work of two co-chief chaplains.
You would go there.
It took two of you to make one of me. So all right.
Exactly. That's it. What can I tell you? Yeah.
So there was a program years ago called This Is Your Life. Ralph Edwards, I remember, was the host, and they would bring out people from the past that meant a lot to you. And the guest we have today is family to me, family that gets along. And I'm talking about Deacon Kevin McCormack, who is the superintendent of schools in the Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn. And he and I were together for many years on a program called Religion on the Line. How many years, Deacon?
We were there 12 years. 12 years. We started in 06 and went to 18.
Yeah.
Wow. And we got to talk about that, because we got to unpack what New York City was like and what the country was like at that time. But first, we want to talk about Catholic schools, because there's a lot going on there, Deacon, correct?
Yeah. Earlier this week, we had a very difficult time announcement to make. We're closing 7 of our schools. We have 63 schools now, and we have to close 7 of them at the end of the school year. It's based basically on the fact that the enrollment has dropped, and as enrollment drops, finances become more and more difficult. And we've tried everything we can to work with these places. And here's the thing. Each of these schools have great administrators and wonderful teachers and sacrificing parents. And the kids, look, let's be serious, the kids are just a delight. And so it would be so easy if I could say, oh, somebody messed up, but the system has failed us, and unfortunately we can't carry them at this point. And it's a very devastating time for us.
When you say the system has failed you, what exactly do you mean?
Well, you know what it is, Rabbi? When you look at New York City, you can go to public school, which there always was, and there are great public school. There are great public school teachers and stuff, and we love them. I know them because a lot of them go to my schools. And you can also go to a charter school. And charter schools go in and they get funded by the city, but yeshivas and Christian schools and Catholic schools, we're on our own. And our parents have to carry the whole freight. Our parents are paying somewhere around $6,000 as an average, but it's costing us about 10 to 12 to educate them, as opposed to the astronomical numbers that are being used to educate the kids in the public system.
Deacon, talk about tax credits and school vouchers that are available to parents.
Reverend, thank you so much for that slide in on the conversation. See, right now, New York State has no choice. We have decided not to allow choice of education. You only have a public or a charter if you're going to be subsidized by the taxpayers. But interestingly, the federal government in their latest budget created a federal scholarship tax credit. Now, just give me a minute just to explain it. So, it's beginning in 2027. Anyone who pays federal taxes can earmark $1,700 of those taxes and get a credit if they bring it into a scholarship granting organization. So that means in the case of the Diocese of Brooklyn, we have Futures in Education. The Archdiocese of New York has theirs. Rockville Center has theirs. And I'm sure there are many. In fact, I know for a fact there are many Jewish and Christian scholarship granting organizations which would be able to receive these funds and then be able to use it for scholarships for kids to move into to be able to supplement their schooling. The problem is we need the governor to opt in. We have over 50 of the governors, over half of the governors already have, and many of them from blue states. We need Governor Hochul to do this.
Wow. So you know what I never understood in this whole discussion? Charter schools and private schools and parochial schools. At the end of the day, we're looking to enhance education. We're looking to make sure that the education we present is great. is qualitative. And we should do everything we can to make sure that people have a path that is not, obstacle loaded to get into one of these schools. So I don't know why over the years we're always talking about, vouchers and this. Why don't we just say we want good schools, and if there are good schools out there, we have to support them?
You make it sound so easy, Rabbi. Look, it's intersecting cultural, economic, demographic, and ecclesial shifts are taking place over time. But the biggest thing, and I think Deacon McCormack is going to speak to that, is cost. The cost has become the deciding factor. At one time, religious orders sustained the Catholic schools. Correct, Deacon?
But unions are also a major factor, aren't they?
Well, I want to make sure there's a distinction between the teachers' union and the teachers themselves. The teachers themselves, the administrators, these are outstanding people. They're out there. They're using their own money to make sure their kids in their public schools are taken care of. The union, on the other hand, it seems to be its only purpose is to make sure it perpetuates itself. And there's actually some real, to use the expression fake news, they're saying that the public school kids will actually be hurt in this program. Absolutely, categorically false. They also will be able to benefit from this federal tax credit. And then that's the thing that kind of drives me crazy. If you look at Florida or you look at Ohio right now, these are states that allow choice, they allow competition, and you say what you want about Florida or Ohio. I mean, I've only been to them once or twice. Here's the bottom line: their school systems are thriving because there's competition, because people are charged to be best. And that goes back to what you said, Rabbi, about isn't it about the kids and the best we can do? Last thing on this, just allow me this. The best anti-poverty program for people in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s has been private schools. And look, I'm looking at it from a Catholic perspective. Catholic schools have shifted the way that middle class worked. I have no doubt the same is true for our Jewish schools and our Christian schools.
You know how I know you're Christian, by the way, Deke? When you just said before that you've only been to Florida twice. That was a giveaway. I can't get any member of my people to say that. Yeah. It's got to be very painful. I don't want to harp on it, but closing schools, closing churches, closing synagogues, whatever it is, it's not just a statistic. There's a human sacrifice. There's a human element that has to, really impact you and others who have to make those decisions.
It's been a tough week for me and my staff and working together. Bishop Brennan breaking his heart to have these schools closed. And it's tough on us, but it's nothing compared to the families that have a legacy there. We have some schools where grandparents, parents, and children have gone through that school. We have teachers that are they're making a sacrifice in their salary because they believe in the schools. They have to find new jobs now. We're going to help them. We're going to help all of them find a placement. But Rabbi, you hit the nail on the head. It breaks hearts, and there are real people here who are suffering because of it.
Yeah, that's a tough thing. I'm Protestant, but my grandchildren, they went to St. Anthony's. They went to a Catholic school. I wanted them to have a Catholic education. They understood the distinction between the two expressions of Christianity. But it was a great experience for them, and costly. It was true, but you get what you pay for. It's a quality education.
Years ago, by the way, I was on the board, and Deacon knows this, of Zavarian High School. They wanted diversity, so they had, me on the board. And I go to the first meeting, and the question was, what are the tuitions all of you are paying at your schools, at, the parochial schools? Catholic schools, $6,000, $5,000, $4,000. They come to me. I said, yeshiva? 20,000, 25,000, I mean, and I thought to myself, how can you make it work for $6,000?
Yeah, and that's a tough thing.
Yep, you scrimp and you save. You look for all kinds of ways to do fundraising. For those of you who are Catholic who are listening, I think World's Finest Chocolate is a sacramental. We sell it all the time.
Deacon, hold on right there. We've got to go to a break, and we'll come back to the chocolate and the quarters and dimes that you used to put in the little folder thing to raise money. Right. I remember those days.
That's right.
We'll be right back with more of the Rev and the Rabbi right here on Red Apple Radio Networks.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
The Rev and the Rabbi.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joe Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard. I think we left the last segment talking about chocolate, right, Deacon?
Yeah, that's right.
We're talking with Deacon Kevin McCormack, who is the superintendent of schools in the Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn. And by the way, Rev, I want you to know he loves bagels. And the years we were together, I taught him. It was easy that a bagel is incomplete unless it has locks on it.
I learned.
Yeah, he learned. Or as you say, Reb a Shmier.
Shmier, of course. Shmier.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
So was that part of raising money, the selling of candies and cookies and things like that to try to help?
Sure. So a while back, so I started Catholic school in 1965, which was the peak of the population in the country of Catholic schools. And since 1965, the population of schools has declined continuously. There's been no blip up. Anyway, with that being said, when you had 400, 500, 600 kids in a school, the chocolate was for the extra things, and the gift wrapping, and there would be all kinds of fundraisers that were done. They usually went back in to kind of make things nicer. Over the years, they became essential, and we're using chocolate as an example because it's ubiquitous throughout the city. Everybody kind of sells it at one point, and the people at World's Finest are wonderful. They're great people, but a lot of the fundraising is being done to make up the gap between what it costs to educate the kids and what the parents are able to pay.
You know, one of the things I've said to the Rev is people always talk about education is the answer. You want to diminish hatred, education. You want people to be more civil to each other? Education. And the answer is yes, but you need moral education.
Correct.
Right? You need values being instilled in the kids. And
in Catholic language, you need the formation of the conscience. You have 100% to have an informed conscience. Yeah.
And that's why, and you pointed this out in the first segment, Reverend, Catholic schools are not just for Catholic kids. We have, and here's an occasion, we have many Greek Orthodox and we have many Protestant evangelical people who come just for what you said, Reverend. They want a place where there are certain things that are right and certain things that are wrong, and that are also age appropriately discussed. The way I talk about morality with a 12th grader is not going to be the way I speak to a second grader, and we're bound by eternal truths, not by the whim of the day. And people want that. You see that in your own communities, but they also find it very difficult to do.
Yeah.
I love the language, age appropriately discussed.
Right.
That is so important. So you can't bring certain things into a kindergarten class with kindergarten children that they have no idea what's being presented to them.
Exactly, Reverend. I'm sorry to talk over you. Whose needs are being met? Is it some agenda that's coming from outside, or is it the need of that kid and that family?
So Deacon, if you look at the trend, you see the closing of schools, closing of houses of worship. What do we do? How do we stem that? How do we try to turn it around if it is all possible?
I think for the schools, we go right back to asking Governor Hochul to please opt in. That's not negotiable. We need that immensely. For our houses of worship, I think, Reverend, I think you can agree with me. We got to go back to our basics. I think we tried to be too many things to too many people along the way, and we forgot our focus. Yeah. And our focus is and I think the three of us can agree on this. Our focus is that we have a God who cares and is directly involved in history, directly involved with his people, who wants them to become more and more loving, caring, and making the world better. And I think that's a dogma we all can agree on.
Yeah. Part of human flourishing requires order, structure, systems, values. All of those things lend themselves to human flourishing. It can't be chaotic. It can't be random. We can't have a successful society with that kind of mindset. Absolutely, Deacon.
You know, when the Rev and I talk about the unaffiliated and what can get people to turn to houses of worship, we say you got to stick to a message that resonates. You got to value something that you're coming to hear or see. And people, they don't need the Rev or the Rabbi or the pastor to read the New York Times to them. They don't need that. They can do that on their own. What they do need is to hear what their tradition has to say about issues of the day, eternal messages, but you got to get back to basics.
We're seeing in the Catholic Church a resurgence with young people. Now, look, we're not looking at the numbers we saw in the 60s and 70s and 50s, but we're seeing people that are coming back and they want to know more. They're also not afraid of mystery, where I think in my time, we kind of tried to intellectualize mystery. The Greek Orthodox never did that. They thrive on that. But again, and I'm not sure about in your world, Reverend, but in mine, the mystery kind of went to the side. We over-intellectualized. That doesn't mean that's not essential, by the way. I'm not wanting to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but at the same time, the mystery and knowing that there's something bigger than us, I think, is attractive to these young people, and they're coming in. We have one church that's going to have 140 baptisms. 140 baptisms on Easter on Holy Saturday. That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah, Deacon, you struck a chord in my heart. I had a 12-year-old from our congregation whose family works in the ministry, father's a minister, came to see me after service and said, "Pastor, can I ask you a question?" I said, "Sure." He said, "What do you love most about Christianity?" He's a 12-year-old kid. He's sharp. And I paused and I said, "Mystery." Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and it satisfied him. He can embrace that. He can understand that. And you know, Deacon, that Western civilization wants certainty. And you can't have certainty in everything. There has to be faith. Faith is the response to mystery. That's very, very real. Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought that up. I love that.
If I could add one more thing to the discussion, I think they also want joy. We say, serve God with joy. Mm-hmm. And they don't want to hear a grumpy guy complaining every week about the state of the world. They want to hear that there's a purpose for their living and a positive purpose for their living. And I think we need to accentuate that as well.
Faith, hope, and love. That's the key, and we do it with a smile. Our bishop is very clear that we need to be joyful, we need to be unapologetic, and we need to be focused on the truth. And the joyful part is the essential part. You know, we know who we are, and we're pleased to know that our God blesses the work we do. And that's why we need our schools. And that's why we need Governor Hochul to sign that.
Rev, get on the phone. Come on.
Deacon, we're coming to the close. I don't know how much time you have left, but I mean, can you hang around with us for a little bit more? We've got to go to a break.
You tell me. I'd be honored to stick with you guys.
Fantastic. Fantastic. All right.
Don't get used to it, though, Deacon.
I have voted. That's all that matters. Yeah. I have voted. So stay tuned for more of the Rev and the Rabbi right here on Red Apple Radio Networks.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rev and the Rabbi.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
And let's say thank you to our producer, Elias Raff, who makes this possible every week.
Absolutely.
You want to know about Religion on the Line? Award-winning.
I want to know about Religion on the Line. It preceded me. Precedes Rev The Rabbi. But you guys, Deacon McCormack and yourself, Rabbi, were on the show for 12 years, correct?
And there was a Religion on the Line before the deacon arrived.
I was actually the sixth permanent Catholic co-host.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wait, Rabbi, you were carrying it all that time?
I still am. So,
okay, I got it.
We had live radio. We had people who liked each other, respected each other, in many cases loved each other. And we would, we were then, what time were we on, Deacon? We were on at 7 or 8?
At one point, we were on from like 6 to 9, and then we were like 7 to 10, and then we were 7:30 to 9. You actually, Bishop, how do you like that, Rabbi? But you had...
Is that a promotion? What is that? That's a...
Well,
I've seen the salary scale. I'm not quite sure I want that. All right.
You went from... Your first co-host, it was a bishop, and he might have even been a cardinal, became a cardinal.
Edwin O'Brien.
Yeah, big time.
Wow.
Yeah, Edwin O'Brien went to his installation at St. Pat's. And I found when I started on radio, I brought books with me. Because I thought, oh, my God, who's listening at these ungodly hours, to use the right adjective? And I soon learned, again, when people hear something of interest to them, they'll respond. And people would call in, whether they were angry or happy or whatever. Although I find that the angry people called in first because they can't sleep. They got to communicate their feelings. But it was really... it was a joy. It was not work at all. It was really a love to come in and to be able to listen, because, we clergy do a lot of speaking. What do we say? Generally speaking, clergy are generally speaking. But we would be able to listen to others, and the radio became their pulpit where they could come and voice their concerns. And it was a most rewarding experience, and I'm glad it's continued, but we're not live. We pre-record every so often, so...
It was
different. I was just going to say, so this spanned the period of 2006, right, to what, 2018?
The McCormack Potasnik,
right. You guys there. Let's go back to that, because what was happening? What were the conversations? What were you guys covering?
Well,
it wasn't just religion, right?
No,
you were applying it to social issues and what was happening. Yeah. Go ahead.
You were one of our very special guests. We would have politicians would come in. We had reporters, news reporters. Some very important news reporters would come in. We had folks from media and entertainment. We had a couple of guys from The Sopranos come on over the years.
We couldn't say no to them. I mean,
That's right. I was a little afraid. We made sure we had our gabagool. We did the whole thing. But we also had ministers who were working in the fields. They were of all denominations, who were serving the poor, who were reaching out. They were taking care of the widow, the orphan, the foreigner. They were doing the things that the scriptures call us to do. And I always loved being there. We had a crazy producer, a wonderful man who was like very, very odd. We would start with some bagels and some Starbucks, and we would spend the day really kind of just spending time. And I used to love the banter between the rabbi and myself, but I was clearly, unlike you, Reverend, I was clearly the second banana. I would go out, and people would obviously didn't know my face, but they'd say, "Your voice is familiar," and then they would look at me and they'd go, "You're the other guy."
Oh my God! But you know what I think people relished, to be honest with you? They want to see people of different faiths sitting together, speaking together, disagreeing together, and it was a template for civility. And unfortunately, that template has been diminished, not our template, but in the country, where do you get civilized disagreement these days?
Right.
It's you're entitled to my opinion, not to yours.
Yep.
But I think that was a highlight, and I miss those years in the sense of being able to talk with someone, not over someone, not at someone, but with someone, and learn from the other person and see where our traditions differed, see where they, were parallel to each other. But it was a rewarding experience, and we need to strengthen it as much as possible to send the message.
So let me ask the two of you a question, because I'm looking back at some of the events that took place in that 12-year period. One of them in 2012 was Hurricane Sandy. And were you guys on the air talking about what was happening?
Oh, that was huge.
Yeah. I remember there was a Rabbi, Charlie Klein, that the deacon knows. And he said...
We have the same doctor, by the way.
A Jewish doctor, I assume. I mean, it's
very much a Jewish doctor.
Yeah. Otherwise, it'd be an oxymoron, right? So he said he remembers during Hurricane Sandy and following that horror, he would go down the street or drive down the street, and he'd see these bags of garbage and realize that some of the things people had treasured for years are now being discarded. They couldn't be used anymore. And how so much of life has now been taken from us. And now we have to, put them in garbage bags and throw it away. And of course, the lives were lost, but also the heroism that we witnessed when people of different faiths came together and said, we are many and we are one. Deacon?
We didn't have the privilege of having denominations define who we were, because we had to take care of those who were most in need. And people lost everything. People had, the way we see the snow in the streets, this last week and 2 weeks, it was sand. People had houses burned down. It was dramatic, and we were on the line. We spoke to the first responders. We really kind of supported them. It was a very special and very humbling at the same time. I think you'd agree with me, Joe. It was very humbling to see regular folks saying they were nobodies, and yet they were heroes.
Yeah, and what about Commissioner Cassano? He was a regular, right?
In fact, he was the guy who I first started with. You couldn't be on, and Father Keating. I'm sorry, the one who I replaced. He wasn't able to be on, and he and I. That was my first show. Was with him.
Yeah, and he's a devout Catholic. Yeah.
Wow, and that's why the moral voices that we bring are so important, because during this period also there was erosion of trust between communities and police, and here we are, in a different place where we're trying to rebuild that. How did you guys respond to that erosion of trust?
We had all kinds of people come on. So, during there was real tension in Crown Heights, and we had members of the Black community, we had members of the Jewish community. They would come on, they would speak together. I remember, I believe he's a Reverend. Reverend Green was a big part of that. We just wouldn't allow people to stay in their own little cubby holes. We had to learn to deal with each other and respect each other, and we did that in politics as well. People who would have very different thoughts on politics, we were able to talk to them. And because it is, and I think this is a gift that you both have also. We didn't talk to a senator; we talked to a person.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you that Crown Heights today does not resemble Crown Heights of 1991.
Not at all.
Because besides the hipsters, I mean, we've seen, the emergence of hate, there were hate attacks, but overall the communities are talking to each other, are cooperating with each other. And I think we witnessed that you can't pursue that path of destruction indefinitely. I often say to people, the 100-Year War even had an end to it. But you shouldn't have to wait 100 years for the end. And people learned we're going to stay in these areas. We're not leaving, but we're going to stay together more. We're going to talk to each other more. And that helped in the rebuilding process.
I think you gentlemen will agree with me, because what we've seen over the last 2 decades, that New York has increasingly functioned as a bellwether city, because local decisions here are interpreted as previews of national direction. That's why what's happening with the police here, because of the symbolism of power here, in New York City is so critical. That's why I'm excited about this opportunity with the Cardinal to serve in this capacity, to shape, and Rabbi, you with FDNY. I just had to throw that in there, guys. I think we're at an important time in the history of the city.
You know what's happened also? I remember growing up, it was rare to see a Jewish person going to a church event, a Christian person going to a Jewish event. We had separation. Now it's commonplace.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember when Rabbi Shubo in Massachusetts died, Cardinal Cushing offered one of the eulogies. And we have seen, Rev, you and I are on the Sheen Center, we see this coalescence of different backgrounds and beliefs coming together and saying, we're here for a cause. We're Catholic with a capital C in some cases, but we're Catholic with a small c, meaning universal. So I think we've come a long way with a lot more to do, but thankfully we are in a better place. Thank you, Deacon McCormack.
Yeah.
This has been a
closing statement. Do we have a minute for a closing statement from the deacon?
Yes. Everything you guys just said, I think when we're at our best, our Lord smiles and says, those are my kids, and I'm proud of them. And the last thing I want to say, I'm not sure I brought it up, but could Governor Holcomb please opt in for the federal tax credit? I need that tax credit.
All right.
We'll see what we can do.
Deacon, it was like having family together today, and that means I won't see you for another 10 years or whatever, but we'll be in touch.
Well, and Reverend, when the rabbi's not around, call me in. I can cover.
There you go. Done deal.
Fellas, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Stay strong. Say hello to the family.
Bye-bye. I will. Bye-bye.
Deacon Kevin McCormack, right here on the Reverend the Rabbi. Stay tuned. We'll be back with the last segment right here on Red Apple Radio Networks.
The Rev and the Rabbi on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Rev and the Rabbi.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. I'm Rabbi Joseph Potasnik.
And I'm Reverend A.R. Bernard.
Reverend, I was privileged this past week to attend a magnificent moment with you, with Cardinal Dolan, with Archbishop Hicks, a breakfast at Cipriani, and I must tell you, NYPD made sure that for Jewish people there, it was kosher, there were kosher provisions made. And I saw them giving to people who said, I didn't even ask for this. And I said, wow, that's something to be so sensitive. So, well, you should have asked for it. You should be eating kosher. You should be having the other stuff. But it was one of those, we used to call them Kodak moments years ago, memorable moments where you saw people whom you loved and respected being elevated to special positions. And Archbishop Hicks, who just, he smiled throughout. Because he enjoys a very special relationship with the Cardinal. We talked about that, how much they support each other, and it's not an easy transition for the Cardinal. You've been, you're Cardinal, Archbishop for many years, and now you have to move back a bit and make room for the new person. But it's been done in a seamless fashion.
Watching them at the table, because, we all sat at the same table with Mayor Mamdani, with the police commissioner, Tish, and just watching Cardinal Dolan and Archbishop Hicks interact with each other. You could see the junior and the senior, in the kind of relationship that says, I got you. We're gonna work together on this to help you transition. So you're absolutely right. It was a special moment. But let's talk about the fact of how classy it was. I mean, it was first class, Rabbi.
It was.
That's important because it sets a standard.
And I tell you, it was done in a very organized fashion. It began shortly after 9 a.m. It finished before 10 a.m., right?
I'm going to give you the exact time. It started at 8:30 on the dot and finished at 9:30 on the dot. And we hung around after, but the program was right in the pocket. And I love that about this commissioner. She has a reputation of punctuality, of starting on time and ending on time, which is great.
That's something we all, I think, need to incorporate it. I wasn't always known for being punctual, but over the years I've learned how important it is. If you're having a program and people are coming there, value their time. Don't think they can just sit around. That also applies to sermonics, to a program where you need people to know they're going to be able to leave at a certain time to do whatever they need to do the rest of the day. And I think it's very important. By the way, just to mention something about the cardinal and the archbishop. So we very much wanted to have the cardinal on the program today. And in talking with him, he said, I'd love to come on, but first, ask the archbishop to come on. And I said, that's classy, right?
Yeah.
And he wants to make sure that the archbishop receives all the attention that he's due, and he will, and we're going to have him on the air. But to see your successor and your predecessor acting in this very respectful fashion is uplifting.
Yeah. It sets a tone, it sets an example, and you've got to be secure as a leader in order to do something like that. If you're insecure, then you're going to do everything you can to hog the spotlight, to try to get the last shine that you can get. But look, we've known the cardinal for many, many years, and we know that was not something out of character, but definitely in character when it comes to our friend. And it was wonderful. And thank you, Rabbi, for your support, being there. And, the commissioner gave a wonderful, informative speech about the state of affairs with NYPD. We were talking with Deacon McCormack, and over the last 25 years, crime has gone down. Yeah, we talk about, murders and violent crime and all that. But I remember 25 years ago, that we had a serious problem. So things have changed, and we should be hopeful that things can continue to change.
The sad counterpart of that is that hate has gone up in many cases. Anti-Semitism is off the charts. And, I drove by the street the other day and I saw a sign, Stop Asian Hate. And we know other groups that have been targeted. But to see anti-Semitism, was it 182% higher than it was? We still have a lot more work to do. But I learned one lesson. We in the clergy have a leadership responsibility, and we can make a difference because we have made differences. People look to us.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I was going to say that absolutely. Look, law enforcement deals with external behavior. We deal with internal understanding, internal values, and internal formation. That's where we come in. That's our field of expertise, and it takes both working together. That's the reality. Good stuff, Rabbi.
I remember the Garner situation, the tensions in the city, and we came together. I remember Bishop Victor Brown was very involved because he's on Staten Island, and we came together, we brought communities together, and we all walked away saying, we learned the importance of standing with one another, not against one another. So as I always say, we have more homework to do, but I think we've done some good homework over the years as well.
Yeah. Funny you mentioned that. I remember that service because we had Cardinal Dolan there, you, myself, Bishop Brown, in his church, and we had the mother of Eric Garner there with us, and bringing reconciliation and modeling understanding and dialogue. Even if we disagree with each other on certain things, we have to be able to have civil discourse in order to work through those disagreements and the problems that we face on a daily basis in a city like New York. That's the reality.
And we learned that service continues when you walk out of the house of worship. Yeah. We make all of the, pronouncements inside, but it's how we perform outside that matters more. I often tell people the Bible doesn't say love humanity, it says love your neighbor. Because we learn in Jewish tradition, it's very easy to proclaim something, in the generic love humanity. What does that mean? But to say love your neighbor, the person next to you, the person near you, the person you may not even like very much, that is very impactful, I think. The specific, not just the general.
You know, there's a wonderful passage in the Gospels where Jesus encounters an expert in religious law, and he raises the question, who is my neighbor? Jesus was pointing to a situation where someone was robbed along the road, and it was a Samaritan, someone outside of the Jewish faith and context, who responded to the needs while others who walked by paid no attention. Jesus challenged the definition of neighbor, because it's easy to think that neighbor is someone who looks like me, believes like me, is same political party, and then we exclude everybody else. But originally, all right, in the law of Moses, neighbor was whoever was in need. It went beyond just the Hebrews, the Jewish people. Correct?
Very correct. And I'm getting a signal that we have come to the end of the program.
What?
Oh, we have one
minute. We got a minute. Okay, wrap it up, Rabbi.
1 minute?
Right there. Who is my neighbor?
Yeah. Well, you live a little far from me, but I still consider you my neighbor. You live far enough for me to be a good neighbor, right? Mm-hmm. But you are my neighbor. Look, I think people are neighbors who see each other as members of the same human family. When you start making distinctions, well, I'm friendly with this one, but not that one because he's not like me at all. And you can misinterpret that passage in the Bible. Love your neighbor for he is like you. All right? That's a wrong translation. What it means is like you in the sense has many of the faults, many of the weaknesses, flawed, but that person is your neighbor. And we need to, that's why it's inscribed on the entrances of houses of worship.
So have the same concern for your neighbor that you have for yourself.
Exactly. And cut the neighbor a little slack as you do for yourself.
Like you do. A lot of slack for yourself. Rabbi, it's been a great program this Sunday morning. Good to be with you always, and good to be with you, our listening audience. Thank you for supporting the program, joining us here faithfully every Sunday across the nation for the Rev
and the Rabbi.
God bless. Till next time.
Thanks for listening to the Rev and the Rabbi. You can hear the Rev and the Rabbi Sunday mornings at 7. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?